Well, we're back with another video in the Sending Shepherd series. I am Matthew Ellison from 1615, and I am joined by my dear friend and colleague for many years, Denny Spitters. Denny, how's it going?
Going well, and it's great to be back with everyone.
Yeah, this book really has been a labor of love. I pray that God uses it in a powerful way. So by now, some of our viewers may be wondering, what does mobilizing the church for global missions actually look like? And that's what we write about in chapter 5 in our new book, and what we'll touch on here today. So Denny, where do we begin?
Well, I think the foundation is found in Romans 10:14-15, where the Apostle Paul kind of reverse engineers the missions process for us. And anyone who accepts God's gift of salvation, he says, must first believe. But in order to believe, they must hear the good news. And to hear, someone must preach. They must proclaim with words. And to preach, someone must be sent. Now, that all sounds simple, but we find that many churches get stuck with the sending part.
That's right, Denny. That's why we always return them to the original example laid out for us in Acts chapter 13. When a church aligns with God's desire to make disciples of all nations, it can seem overwhelming. But if we do look at how God showed up in the church at Antioch, we can trust He'll do the same for us. So first they worshiped, they fasted, they prayed, and out of that prayer chamber, the world missions movement began in earnest. God's Spirit spoke to them and said, "Set apart for me Paul and Barnabas for the work that I have called them to accomplish." And then the church laid hands on them, they fasted some more, they prayed some more, and they sent them out. So it really starts with worship and prayer and fasting and seeking the heart of God for His global mission for your church.
Yeah, what a beautiful picture in the scriptures here. It's incredible to think that after almost 2,000 years, that the prayers of Antioch's prayer season are still being answered today. I think the next thing that's so crucial is for pastors to preach the Bible's plot line with every opportunity. The more churchgoers can hear and relate to God's plan to save everyone and God's heart for the whole world to come to know Him, the more they'll begin to ask, well, what can I do to be a part of God's plan?
Yeah, and there's many passages that a pastor is going to teach. There is no need to anchor it into missions. It's not there. It would be a stretch to do so. But more often than not, I think there's passages that are taught and the meta-narrative is there and it's often overlooked. So I love that, Denny.
Yes.
Absolutely. I think another challenge and opportunity is to make global missions central to discipleship, not to divorce it from discipleship. We like to say integrate global missions into everything the church does instead of marginalizing it, making it a separate ministry. Now, you might have a missions program or a mission ministry at your church, but the heartbeat of God for the nation should be woven into the fabric of the whole church. We've been using this phrase, missions can either be a part of the church or the heart of the church.
Yeah, I love that image because if it's going to be at the heart, then we need to equip the church with training and education, and there's a lot in the book on this topic. Additionally, it's so important to measure and celebrate the right stuff, as they did at Antioch. Later in Acts, we see this happening. I think of one reason why global missions is stagnant in North America is because we want fast results. And when we don't see the ROI happening really quickly, our interest fades. But global missions requires the long view and being in it for a long game. We need to embrace patience and faithfulness while trusting God for the results.
Yeah, that is so true, brother. There's a lot of opposition to the Great Commission. We have to remember that missions is cosmic warfare, and what comes with missions are inherent risks. We can't ignore the fact that these unreached people groups live in places and are under regimes that are hostile to the gospel.
True.
And so we have to be faithful. We can't just look for ROI, as you said. We have to look at faithfulness and obedience and trust God for the results. There is things to be celebrated. As we pointed out in Antioch, the door of faith had been opened to the Gentiles. Salvation was happening. We need to celebrate those moments. We also have to remember this is a long haul vision.
Yes. And that's not only absolutely true, and it's also a joyful celebration that awaits our churches as we engage in this endeavor. In fact, seeing God overcome the challenges and barriers that are faced in order to bring others to saving faith in Jesus Christ, that's what this is all about. It's at the very heart, and that's what we'll discuss in the next video. So see you there, and be sure to click subscribe so you know when our next video comes out.